Hey there, I just posted my video on making this planer and joiner station, and if you haven't seen that, I'll put a link in the description. Now this is something I've been needing for a while. I actually used to have one that I made out of plywood back when I had the Wen planer instead of the DeWalt before I broke it. I had a plywood stand for both the joiner and planer that worked okay, but there was a major issue I didn't think about before that I fixed with this version. You may have noticed it, but the planer and joiner both are lined up so that material goes in the same direction. Where previously on my other one, the planer basically was flipped. So it was going perpendicular with the joiner. And now that kind of worked okay with my shop at the time, but the biggest issue is that if you have long boards, pretend you have like an 8-foot board, well, you now need 8 feet of clearance in front of and behind the planer and joiner going in opposite directions, where this way I have a pathway here on both. So that was the main reason I designed it this way. The other thing, I did follow my standard modular workbench design, at least for the main compartment. So this is a single bay in the same size as the rest of my modular workbenches. I didn't add a cabinet of any sort this time. I'm actually planning on designing a dust collection box that could be used in any of my modular workbenches, something that could be for, a 4-inch port or 2.5-inch port, whatever you want. And it's something you could pop in any slot in the workbench. And basically, if you have a tool there that can use it, it's just for dust collection. So basically you would have a shop vac or dust collector hooked up, and it would act like one of those turbine collectors, except in cube form, just in there. So that's why this is empty right now. Still kind of working out how I want to build that. But it's really nice to have the joiner set up again. I wasn't using that for a while. It was just collecting dust because, well, I didn't really have a good place to put it. But the nice thing here is I can just walk around, use the joiner, walk over here, use the planer, and then over there is my table saw. And the other nice thing too is I have my dust collector hooked up to the table saw and joiner, not the planer, because the planer, this version of the DeWalt, actually has a blower internally. So let's go on the other side. I'll show you something cool about how this is set up. So over here, I have the DeWalt planer tubed down to this jet kind of turbine style collector. But then on the other side, instead of this directing to my dust collector, I now have one of these filter bags, which is pretty sweet. And so this way, the DeWalt planer, I don't need the dust collector. It's collecting all the chips in here very efficiently, and any fine sawdust is getting filtered out with this. And having this here should extend the life on this. They designed this bag so you can just clip it right on the planer, but I mean, I feel like that would just get in the way and this would fill up pretty fast. So I'm going to try out this for a while, see how that works. And that'll give me some time to figure out how exactly I want to design that bin, because the idea is the DeWalt would use whatever bin I have down here. One last thing I want to point out, as I was designing this, I was thinking about different ways to make a cart that would combine both the planer and joiner. And because this is the short lunchbox style DeWalt planer, I was thinking for a while what I would do is put this basically inside the cabinet and then put the joiner on top. That way it's a really small profile and I have both of them there. But there are a couple issues I was thinking about. One, for the planer, will be so low every time I'm trying to adjust it, I'm bending over, and that seemed like it would be a huge pain. I would also lose the space on top to put boards, but there is probably enough room where I could have had it behind the joiner on top. But that's actually the other issue with the joiner. That would have been too high, where it would have been really awkward for me to move pieces along. So I'm curious to know what you think about this design. Let me know in the comments if this is something you might want to build yourself, or maybe you have a better idea of how to combine both machines so that it's still a comfortable setup, but you're not really sacrificing too much space. Something really compact. I'd love to know what you think.